Kiddushin Daf Yomi Aleph, growing wealth, shiשנן בכלל bracha. The pursuit of wealth as an end in itself is a destructive force both in terms of the well-being of people as well as the sustainable prosperity of businesses and of communities and of nations. But wealth as an outcome of doing the right things, or growth as an outcome of doing the right things, both ethically and from a business perspective, from an economic perspective, that's a siman bracha. That's a sign of bracha because it is the nature of healthy organisms to grow. When an organism stops growing, it dies. And so growth as an outcome, you don't drive growth. If your child is a little kid and you want the child to grow up to be a wonderful adult, you don't drive their growth. You don't say, you've got to grow, you've got to grow, you've got to grow. What can we do about your growth? You're not growing fast enough. That's not what we do. We make sure the child lives a healthy life and we watch the growth as an indicator of whether everything's okay or not. It's the same in a business. If we drive growth relentlessly, we destroy people and we destroy the business in the process. We make people meshugah. But if we are doing the right things to nurture growth and then we watch the growth as a measure of our success, then that's the right thing. That's a siman bracha. In understanding the relationship between growth and bracha and how they work, we have two worldviews in our Gemara. We have the worldview of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai and of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, both of them Talmudim of Rabbi Akiva. So we're talking about nearly 2,000 years ago, the period around the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash. And our Gemara is based on a few psukim. As you know, we're dealing with the Hilchot Avadim, about the laws of slavery. We explained in the last shiur as to why slavery appears here in Kiddushin. And today we deal particularly with the laws of ha'anaka, the payment that you make to an Eved Ivri, to a Jewish servant that whose labor you've purchased. When you let him go, there's a mitzvah of ha'anaka. You've got to give him a gift as he leaves. And we've got that in Parshat Re'eh. We had just a week or two ago, Ki yimachel lecha achicha ivri o ivriya va'avadcha shesh shanim uvashana shvi'it tishalchen lechofshi minamach. He works for you for 6 years, and on the 7th year you send him free. V'chi tishalchen lechofshi minamach lo tishalchen reikam. And when you send him free, when you release him, you should not let him go empty-handed. Ha'anek ta'anik lo, you shall give him a gift, mitzoncha, from your flock, migornecha, from your threshing floor, umiyikvecha, from your wine presses. Asher beracha Hashem elokecha titen lo, from that which Hashem has blessed you with, you shall give him. V'zacharta ki eved ayita be'eretz Mitzrayim vayiftecha Hashem elokecha. You must remember that you were once a slave in Eretz Mitzrayim and Hashem redeemed you. Al ken anochi mitzaveh et hadavar hazeh hayom. That's why I'm instructing you to do the same thing when you allow the slave to go free, when you release him. This is what you need to do. The Gemara brings a sifri from Parshas Re'eh. Yachol yehu yimanikim ela lo yimanikim ela mitzon goren v'yekev minayin rabot kol davar. I might think from these verses that when you give your slave a gift, it has to be wine or wheat or sheep. It has to be something very specific. Talmud lomar asher beracha Hashem elokecha. It says no, you've got to give him from that which Hashem has blessed you with. You give him from everything that Hashem blessed you with. Okay, ma Talmud lomar tzor goren v'yekev. So why does the Torah mention sheep, threshing floor, wine press? Why doesn't it say, Ha'anek ta'anik lo mikol asher beracha Hashem elokecha? You shall give him a gift from that which Hashem has blessed you with. Lomar lecha, matzon goren v'yekev meyuchadim sheyeshnam bichlal bracha. It mentions these three to give you a specific generality. This is a case that Ashmor brings in the name of Tosfos, who we don't have. How the Gemara learns this out, it's a klal upratu klal, where you've got specifics and you've got generalities, and there are ways that we balance these specifics and generalities. So this is not so general as to be you can give him whatever you want. Nor is it so specific that you've got to give him specifically sheep, wine, and wheat. That's also not what it means. What does it mean? The common denominator of sheep, wine, meaning vines, and wheat, the common denominator is growth. The common denominator is bracha. Miyuchadim shiשנן בכלל bracha, af kol shiשנן בכלל bracha. So you've got to give him something which facilitates it, or which allows growth, something which entails growth. That's what you learn from tzoncha gornecha v'yikvecha. Divrei Rabbi Shimon, and what does that exclude? So that means you can give him anything. No, says Rabbi Shimon, not cash. Don't give him money. And with this we see Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai's worldview emerging as to, I don't believe it's his worldview that brings about his way of understanding the posuk. I believe it's the way he understands the posuk that develops his worldview. And we'll see his worldview in a moment. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, Yatsu Pradot. No, it's mules that you can't, because mules can't reproduce. You can't build a flock of mules. That's what it means you don't give him. Don't give him something that you can't breed, that you can't grow. But money you can invest. Money can grow. So they've got different views about money. Is money a commodity, or is money a force of growth? Is money an investment instrument? What does Rabbi Shimon say about mules? Is Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is right. Mules can't grow. They can grow. You can get a little mule, and the little mule becomes big and strong. That's growth. So they included in what you're allowed to give the slave. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, ksafim avid buhu iska. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says money. That you invest money in business. What greater instrument of growth is there than cash, than money? And therefore, that's the biggest gift that you can give him. People have this dilemma often when they're giving gifts, right? Isn't that so? Should I buy them a gift, or should I give them a check? You go to a wedding, what would they appreciate more? Would they appreciate the money, or they appreciate it's a machlokes, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov and Rabbi Shimon, as to what it is. But one thing it needs to be something that can grow and develop. One doesn't give them something that is static. Remember Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, this is the same Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Rabbi Shimon is Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Rashi tells us many times that when it says Rabbi Shimon in the Gemara, unless it says otherwise, that's Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. What does Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai say in Gemara Brachas and Daf Lamed Hey? When it says Va'asafta deganecha, it says Lo yamush sefer haTorah ze mipicha yachol dvarim kiktavam. Hashem tells Yoshua that the Sefer Torah should never cease from your lips. You should be learning all day. Does that mean literally? So we've got Rabbi Yishmael. This is no, V'asafta deganecha. You've got to go to work as well. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says, what do you mean go to work? Then when are you going to learn? It does mean literally that if you're keeping Hashem's will, you don't have to worry about earning a living. It will happen miraculously, says Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, who you remember lived in the cave for so long with his son and lived on nothing. So Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai has a view of money that is not as positive as that as Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Where Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov learns this piece of Chumash out in such a way that the bracha, that real bracha is in money, in cash, because cash can grow. Cash can be invested. Cash can be put into a business and one can develop it. And their machlokes is, are we looking at growth as something organic? If you've got a flock of sheep, they grow naturally. You just have to take care of them and they grow and they multiply. Are we looking at organic growth, or are we looking at the growth that requires human ingenuity, which is financial growth? You can't just take a bag of money and expect it to grow. Nothing will happen with it. You need to apply human ingenuity to capital, and if you apply human ingenuity to capital, capital grows. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, that's bracha. Bracha, when we're talking about it has to be yuchadim shieshnam bechlal bracha. What is something you would give as a gift that has bracha entailed in it? There's nothing more than kesef, than cash. Because what is bracha? Bracha is you apply human ingenuity and intellect to the object, in this case the money, capital, and the capital grows. That's bracha. That's what it is. The fact that you've got a flock and the flock grows organically, that's also bracha. But certainly money is included. But a mule that has a limit to how much it can grow, it can just become a bigger, stronger mule, but it can't get more mules. That's not growth. That's not what we're talking about. No, says Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, we're not talking about applying human ingenuity for growth. If you have to apply human ingenuity, that's not bracha. That's economic effort. That's you're doing business. That's not bracha. Bracha is you don't do anything. It's Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai l'shitato in brachas. If you really are having bracha, you shouldn't have to do anything for business. It should grow by itself. That's ultimate bracha according to Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. What do we mean by this idea of bracha? What is bracha? How do we access it? What does it do? So part of the most important pieces in understanding bracha is in Reb Chaim Volozhiner, the Vilna Gaon's prime Talmud, who wrote the Nefesh HaChaim. And in the second shiur of Nefesh HaChaim, he deals with bracha and he says, "Va'inyan ki milat baruch eino lashon tehila ushvach, kamo sheshuma befi ha'amon." When we say Baruch Atah Hashem, we're not praying to Hashem. That's not what bracha means. Bracha is not about a tefillah. Aval ha'emet hi ki baruch perusho lashon tosefet v'ribui. And although he doesn't bring our Gemara is a clear proof for what the Nefesh HaChaim says. It's not just the Nefesh HaChaim. It says that in the Nefesh HaChaim, he says it in a very clear and accessible way. All the Sifrei Kabbalah talk about bracha in this way. That bracha is lashon tosefet v'ribui. It's about growth. It's about increasing value. Starting with something and it growing into more. Uchinyan kachnat birchati, and he brings various proofs for that. And then he goes on to say that the idea of when we Baruch Atah Hashem, so how are we blessing Hashem? What are we giving Hashem more? He says yes, that there is a requirement from us to add strength to Hashem, so to say, not to Hashem himself in his essence, but to the way Hashem manifests himself in this world. And by doing that, by adding strength to Hashem, when we say a bracha in davening, it means adding more. That's really what it means. That's what Hashem wants for whatever reasons. That throughout tefillot, look at the power of the human being, that throughout tefillot, we're going to stand in a few minutes' time and we're going to daven Shachris. And we're going to say Baruch Atah Hashem many times during the next half an hour. And every time we say Baruch Atah Hashem, we are improving, we're fixing, we're repairing the higher worlds to make them able to receive Hashem's force, Hashem's energy. So you've got Hashem, so to say, at the top of it all, and then you've got all these worlds between us and Hashem. We are strengthening these higher worlds. That's the bracha, to enable them to receive energy from Hashem. Shiyu muchanim uruyim lekabel shifat kedushat or elyon, so that these higher worlds are ready today. As we move into the day today, we prepare them to accept Hashem's energy, so that they can be filled and overflowing with Hashem's bracha and kedusha. ומתפשט בתוכם, וממילא יושפע זה התוספת ברכה והקדושה גם על עם סגולה שגרמו וסבבו לכל הכבוד הזה. And the result of this is we get a piece of it too. We get a share of that. So what we're doing davening, we're not davening for ourselves, we're not even davening for Klal Yisrael. We're davening for the higher worlds, we're davening for Hashem's universe. We're davening that Hashem will bring His energy into that universe of higher worlds. And through that, we get the benefit of that bracha as well. Some of that comes down to us as well. Gadol koach, and that's what it says, Gadol koach birkat hamazon shemosif koach bracha b'familia shel mala, where the Zohar says that birkat hamazon, benching is important because when you bench, you add power to the familia shel mala, to Hashem's higher worlds of energy. That's why it's a terrible thing when people say, it's Mazonis bread, we don't have to wash, we don't have to bench. I don't have to add any strength to Hashem's upper worlds. Isn't that great? I don't need extra bracha. I don't need to give Hashem a bracha. I don't need to get Hashem. That's what it means when we try and get ourselves out of Birkat HaMazon. What are we saying? We'll go all the way, we'll schlep to the other side of the world to get a bracha from a tzaddik. And here you can get a bracha from the Ribbono Shel Olam, and you can give the bracha a Ribbono Shel Olam, and you want Mazonos bread so that you don't have to make Birkas HaMazon? And it says, in fact, Kol ha'ochel ve'eno mevarech nikra gazlan. If one eats and doesn't bench, then you're a gazlan. You're robbing Hashem and the world of bracha that He would otherwise have access to, which you're not facilitating. It's unbelievable what the human being can do. Ki hu gozel u'monea me'ha'olamot shivat ha'bracha v'ha'kedusha she'היה צריך להשפיע בהם על ידי ברכתו. He is depriving the universe of the power of bracha that Hashem would give through His Birkas HaMazon, through the way He benches at the end of a meal. And so we shouldn't just mumble our benching, to realize what we're doing when we're benching, what cosmic forces we're affecting through the benching. So that's the idea of bracha. Bracha is growth that comes as a result of connecting to Hashem's source of bracha, of energy, and through that connection, whatever we're working with grows. We grow our inner worlds. We spoke in the last few days also about growing our inner worlds, not only growing our exteriority, but growing our interiority, making sure that our neshamas are developing, our character, our identity is developing, that our lives are developing, our families are developing, our children are developing, our friendships and relationships are developing, our communities are developing. We need growth. All these things need to be growing in quality and growing in quantity, because growth is a siman bracha. Growth means we're connecting to Hashem, we're doing the right things, and when an organism is connected to Hashem and doing the right things, the natural outcome is that it grows. But there's another dimension to growth which is important as well, which we see in Parshas Bechukotai, v'achaltem lachmechem l'sova. You will eat your bread and be satisfied. On that posuk, where it starts off saying, v'yisig lachem daish et batzir v'atzir yasig et zara, Rashi says, she'eh hadaish muruba v'atem asukim bo ad batzir v'batzir tasku ad shat hazera. In the beginning of Parshat Bechukotai, we're told about what things look like when they're going well. What is healthy growth when the economy is doing well? What does it look like? It looks like there's so much growth that you're going to be busy until the time of harvesting, and after the harvesting you're going to be busy until you're planting. The entire year you're going to be busy in the farms because there's so much bracha, there's just so much blessing and produce. However, as much as there is, you won't need it, because ochel kima v'hu mitbarech b'meyav, what is v'achaltem lachmachem l'sova? You will find nourishment and satisfaction in small quantities. And the rest you can export, the rest you'll be able to sell. You won't need that much. So the other way of creating bracha is, it's important to understand the two elements. One element of bracha is growth and plenty. And the other element of bracha is growth through sufficiency. So if I've got $1 million and I would like to be able to invest $1 million, but what can I do? I spend $1 million. That's not a whole lot of bracha. So now I need my $1 million to become $2 million. Otherwise I haven't got enough to invest. I spend it all. But if I only spend $100,000 of that, because that's sufficient for me. Not because I'm suffering. It's not like other religions have this view of just the mistapek b'mu'at, meaning I'm okay with, it doesn't matter, I'm okay with nothing, I'm happy to live in poverty. That's not what mistapek b'mu'at means. Mistapek b'mu'at means ochel kima v'hu mitbarech b'me'av. I'm fully satisfied. I'm completely nourished. I've learned how to extract optimal value from small inputs. And that's a skill we've talked about before that applies not only in terms of food, to be able to get full nourishment from small amounts of food, not have to eat enormous amounts of food. We've talked about it in areas of economics, of being able to find happiness and luxury and satisfaction in small things, about the pleasures of life, to be able to get emotional and spiritual satisfaction from small things, a beautiful Rashi, a lovely sunset, a nice comment from a friend, a poem that one reads, little things that are able to nourish one. We don't allow ourselves the time to extract nourishment, and therefore we need more and more and more. That's not bracha. Part of bracha is being able to extract enormous value from small amounts of quantity. And those are the two ways that bracha is affected. It's affected by increasing the quantity, and it's affected by us learning how to increase the quality of our intake, being able to be fully satisfied and nourished and happy with small amounts rather than to need large amounts. And the Malbim in Parshas Bahar actually says that these are two different brachot, and the greater one is the second one. The physical bracha of having lots, that your million becomes 2 million, that's kind of natural. That's what happens in economics. If you do the right thing, your wealth grows. There's bracha in that, but it's not nace. That's not miracle. That's bracha. But it's miracle when you're able to find enough pleasure and enough sustenance in small amounts to really give you the nourishment that you need. Physical nourishment, emotional nourishment, spiritual nourishment. That's b'derech nace. That's already miraculous. That's taking the bracha to a new level. And so yes, as we said in the beginning, the relentless pursuit of growth as an end in itself is a destructive force in society. However, to see growth as the outcome of doing the right things, to see growth in our ability to find plenty in small things, the ability of growth to be the result of Hashem's bracha, of us connecting to Hashem's world, of us saying our brachot, our birkat hamazon in the correct way, our brachot in the morning in the correct way, creating the connection between the worlds of the universe and Hashem's source of bracha so that we can benefit from that. That type of growth is a siman bracha. That's what bracha in fact means. Miyuchadim shieshnam bichlal bracha, the bracha of growth.